documented. They were not employed, despite the fact that they were teachers in Ghana, and they all had their job in there. So, but here on the benches of this medium-sized city in Catalonia, they were not documented. They only had temporary permits, and because they couldn't renew their job permits, they were kind of in a limbo, and in this sense they were not legal, so they could not access basic daily resources, such as, for example, food, toilet facilities, shelter, actually, and so on. It was a public bench in the bus station, and I saw them there regularly. It was 3 of them. They carried their plastic bags with their belongings, and they all had stories about, well, their own linguistic trajectories and stories about getting to move into a medium-sized city after having visited different parts of Spain and also the capital, Barcelona, in the case of Catalonia. And we developed this report on a daily basis when I was going to take my bus to work. And after a year, I just sat down on the bench and started these long conversations with them. I tried to convince them that I wanted to understand the languages that they used and their socialization processes. And I was clear with them to say, I think this passes unnoticed. We don't know anything about this. I think we've got misconceptions for sure on how you talk and so on. And I think it is of interest as well, particularly because of your English background, because mainstream population, and I hope not to be overgeneralizing now, most of them were not aware of the fact that English is official in Ghana as well. Linguistic repertoires. For me, I think that repertoires, that is, all our communicative resources that we have at hand, not simply languages as whole bounded unit. And I think this is what gets us into talking about orders of indexicality, if I understood the term by Blumert correctly. In this case, Ghanaians spoke what we in Europe call languages, 6 of them. A Kiem that was used among themselves as a lingua franca, but also to talk about Senegalese and Nigerians, for example, who greeted each other by using bonini, for example, like no problem, and so on. And this helped me understand the relationships between migrant populations as well, and how this mobility of languages circulate across in an intergroup manner, when migrants relate with one another, all of them trying to seek citizenship resources, and how they were mobilizing their linguistic resources according to whom they were speaking. Now, they also spoke Spanish, and they presented themselves as new speakers of Spanish. So we are now Spanish-speaking people. Sometimes I saw, according to these orders of indexicalities, that in front of particular institutional people, such as, for example, when they were going to the town council to ask for particular administrative documents, they played the role of, I'm going to use Spanish, but I'm not going to pretend that I am a speaker of Spanish on the same ground. So they had it very clear in their mind that Spanish was the barometer of integration, like you're doing correctly, this is what you have to do. But also they only there to say, no, I'm a native speaker, I have a command of Spanish and I can use Spanish as well. Only intergroup, for example, when they were saying Malayans and Senegalese, they speak little Spanish. So they presented themselves as better Spanish speakers than Senegalese populations in front of the researcher, for example. For me, that was an order of indexicality. Local populations, well, we only speak a bit, but thank you for giving me the opportunity in front of other migrant populations to say, no, I speak better Spanish than you. You see, this mobilizing of ideologies and values attributed to one's own repertoire and categorizing the others' language repertoires. Well, let me just say a few words about the role of English, because I think it is very prominent in the article. I was very shocked about what they did with the English language. They had two different faces, so to speak. In the first place, they only mentioned English to me once they heard me speak English, and once they knew that I know that in Ghana, English is one of the languages in there. But other than that, they would have hidden it. Oh, no, 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 I only speak Ashanti, full stop. And then I wanted to investigate a bit more about this. And I think that when they were repeating this idea that I speak small English, I speak no English, they were talking about how these orders of indexicality, Ghanaian English in this part of Europe is the legitimized, and it is taken as not being the norm, as deficient, as faulty, as not mobilized by native speaker populations. And it even indexed some sort of morality, some sort of mischief, mistrust. Like, remember that they even tried to hand in their curriculum vitae in the temporary work agencies, and they were said, no, 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 with this English, out. And they translated them for them. So their English was not valid in mainstream society, because what was fostered and what was an index of transnationalism, mobility, advancement, cosmopolitanism, globalization, innovation, and a right to speakerhood was inner circle Englishes. So you sounded like British, like, or general American, like. It indexed that you were educated, higher education, and you were self-invested in your communicative resources and so on. Whereas that was not the case for Ghanaians. So Ghanaians sometimes played this role of not speaking English, being delegitimized, and they reproduced this idea of them being subject, being not enough, not legitimate speakers, and so on. And that's how we find what Kanaharaham calls linguistic insecurity about their own linguistic resources. And I think that spoke of the linguistic discrimination that they had felt and that they themselves embodied when they could not mobilize English at any time. However, on other occasions, once they knew that I also spoke English, they conduct this linguistic identity acts of assertivity. And then they didn't play this post-colonialized, non-fully fledged, deficient speaker of English, who just manages no much noise, just a little bit of Spanish as the barometer of integration, blah, blah, blah. No, they claimed that they mobilized nativist conceptions of language. I was born in Ghana. After 3 years of primary education, the whole thing is in English. I've been teaching English back there. And so these acts of linguistic assertiveness and of ownership of the language. And then all of a sudden they started saying that the Senegalese could not speak it, Pakistanis spoke it with another accent that would not take them anywhere in Catalonia. And so on and so forth. And all these discourses around their biggest university, where Kofi Annan studied, and so on. This pride, linguistic pride. I think orders of indexicality provide us with a rationale for understanding ambiguity, as well as the roles of particular language resources, exactly the same language resources, but changing completely depending on the part of the world in which you are talking or from which you are positioned. And also for me, it's a very interesting way of saying that migrants, it's not, sometimes we tend to talk about them as powerless, as they cannot do anything else from this, or as agency-less. And for me, orders of indexicality is a very nice way, thanks to the concept developed by Bloomer, to talk about how sometimes they regiment themselves into the established social linguistic norms, behaviors, and comportments, but sometimes they also have the agency and the right to claim other linguistic identities.